All right, we will call our council meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our 1 o'clock regular council meeting for May 13th. Call the meeting to order. I believe roll call, everyone's here. So we are looking for disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Approval of the agenda. Councillor Grantham and Councillor McGuire, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, the adoption of the minutes and recommendations of the Committee of the Whole. April 22nd, regular council meeting, April 29th, and the closed session from April 29th as well. I believe you all have that. Moved by Councillor Clark and seconded by Councillor Smybert. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Inquiries? Councillor Burkhart-Jessup.
Thank you. Through the warden. I brought this up in the past. This is a question for Cindy, just on where we are with our community safety and well-being plan. And yeah, just wondering if we're ever going to revisit that.
Thank you through the warden to the councillor. Great question. So I have been in discussions with a couple of the local CAOs in regards to where our next steps. So I know that the next CAO meeting, they are going to talk about that plan. They're going to talk about how we can gather some data. So I sent them a template of information that we could get from each one of the local municipalities and then pull that all together and come back to county council with a plan. I do also want to note that I also do have a research position coming on board in a couple of weeks. So I do have somebody that can help me with collating some of that information.
Thank you for that. I'll certainly look forward to timely updates on that. This is a legislated piece of that we need that the province introduced whenever 2020, I guess after the 2022 election. And I'm just wondering, has the province ever followed up with us on the document and how it is that, you know, it is a living document that we work with and not just one that collects dust on a shelf?
Through the warden to the councillor, no, I have not heard back. And I also want to point out there is no funding attached to this report as well, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. So everything that we do really is in kind as part of what we do as our day-to-day job. So as you can imagine, it is time intensive to go through and do that. However, I do want to comment on there's a lot of great work that happens in the community currently. And I believe it's just a matter of, like I said, reaching out to the local CAOs and discussing what's already happened in your community. And we're going to collate that and put that together and then really discuss how we go forward and revisiting our plan, revisiting the priorities, working together to say, do we still agree these are the right ones? And then coming forward with council on how we go forward and keep that more current and up to date. But it's really important to note that work is being done in the community and some great work, whether we look at our homelessness and our homeless prevention funding and the work that we're doing there with our accommodation program, the community meetings, some of the work in social services, some of the work in childcare. And I know with the local municipalities, there is a lot of stuff going on. So, but you are right. I need to come back to collate that, work with the local CAOs and get it moving forward.
Okay. Any other inquiries? Councillor Clark?
Thank you. Through the warden, I guess to the clerk, it would have to be. Some months ago, I believe it was under a notice of motion, I asked to be provided, the council be provided with a copy of the current vacation policy for county employees, and we've not yet received that. Can you speak to when that's coming? And if it's current, it should be available anytime, not this long down the road.
Yes, through the warden to the councillor. That was an inquiry that was made, and it was direction to staff to come back with a report about with the copy of the vacation policy. And I'd have to pull up the language, which I can do quickly. But that has not come back yet through staff.
Right, thank you. Something you can add, Cindy? Well, just seeing if Cindy can add something to it.
Sure. Thanks to the warden to your councillor question. So yes, with the recent change in the CAO, I've currently had some brief discussions with our interim CAO about bringing that report forward to council. I've already asked staff to gather some of the information that's been required. So I'm going to say I'll be able to come back in the June to July phase. with the report for you.
Okay, Counselor. Any other inquiries? Seeing none, notice of motion? No, Counselor comments and other business? Nothing. I would just make a couple of comments, and that is to thank Strathroy Caradoc for hosting the Municipal Day. It was a good day, and thank you very much for that. Also congratulate the Economic Development Tourism team. Yesterday, they had a bus trip and a symposium, and talking to Kara, they had a very good day. So just congratulate those two. So seeing no other comments, we need a motion to go into committee of whole. Councilor McGuire, Councilor Smybert, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Delegations, seeing none. Reports from county officers, the action items, and the first one is 8C1, rooted in community, growing towards tomorrow, strategic plan. And I believe, Paul, are you starting that off?
Through you, Mr. Warden. Yes, sir. We'll just get Lynn in as well. So yeah, we'll tag team this quickly. I'll just provide a brief overview. The covering report provides the council decision history that's led us to this point and a bit of background on strategic planning in Middlesex County. Lynn's going to run through and speak about all the components of the strategic plan and the final strategic plan. I would say that Corey has been great to work with, and specifically the implementation plan, which is sort of the staff output at this point in time. We're very appreciative for the framework provided. And once Lynn's done going through the presentation, I can speak at a staff level how, if it's the will of council, we would implement the implementation framework and provide accountability mechanisms for those on a go-forward basis. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Lynn. And Lynn, I've got your presentation up.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Chris, for moving through the slides. So good afternoon, Warden Rock, members of County Council and staff. I'm very pleased to be here with all of you this afternoon. It has been a real privilege to work alongside your leadership team, all of your staff, meet your community members and other interested parties to really roll up our sleeves and develop this strategic plan for the county. I think you'll see that the result is really a shared roadmap that reflects all of your priorities and aspirations for the future of Middlesex County. So maybe if we just go to the next chart, you should have a final draft copy of the strategic plan itself, as well as Paul mentioned, a couple of other supporting documents. So there's a performance measurement framework and an implementation plan, kind of where the rubber hits the road. Both of these documents will help ensure that the priorities and initiatives remain in focus for all of you over the next few years. So today what we plan to do is I'll begin with just a brief summary of the approach we use to develop the plan. We'll then review the strategic priorities, goals, and the performance measurement framework, as well as the purpose of the implementation plan that your team had a real hand in creating. And then we'll conclude with final recommendations and the support that you might need to successfully launch the plan itself and keep up with the ongoing execution of it. So I can certainly wait till the end of the presentation to open it up for discussion, or depending on council's preference, you can ask questions along the way. So maybe we'll just go to the next chart. By way of our engagement approach, you will recall we cast quite a wide net. We spoke with a number of interested parties, including many one-on-one interviews with all of you and your senior leadership. So we conducted 25 of those interviews. We also hosted focus groups with employees, with the local municipalities. We spoke with businesses and other community members. And we also launched a community survey, and that really garnered some great feedback and insights from a wide variety of community members, businesses, residents. We then synthesized all that feedback into a comprehensive engagement summary report, and we started to outline some of the key themes and insights that were emerging. We used those key themes and insights to then conduct a SWOT analysis and really validate what it is that we were hearing against strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the county's consideration. So if we move to the next chart, all of this work then became input into the visioning workshop. So if you recall, early March, we sat down with all of you and senior leadership to kind of review and discuss everything that we heard from those engagement discussions. We then started crafting the beginnings of a vision statement for the county. What words, what statements really made sense to encapsulate the vision for the county. Then we rolled up our sleeves and started identifying strategic focus areas to address over the next few years and what goals and objectives for each of those strategic areas needed to be developed. And then we rounded out the day, if you recall, with identifying what might get in the way, how we plan for that. Obviously knowing that there'll be some unforeseen things in the future that the plan needs to be able to pivot towards and be flexible enough for. If we move to the next chart, the vision statement then got refined and it became the following. Middlesex County strives to be a welcoming, adaptable community committed to sustainable growth, preserving its agricultural heritage, and building a thriving economic and social environment. Through collaboration, innovation, and responsible leadership, we foster a vibrant, inclusive, and resilient community that values diversity, prosperity, environmental stewardship, and overall well-being. So if we go to the next chart, following the visioning workshop in March, we then really rolled up our sleeves and began the heavy lift of fleshing out what are those key strategic priorities and goals for the county. And the county landed on 4 priorities. So the first is really around economic development with a goal to enhance overall economic well-being for the county. The second strategic priority was around collaboration and partnerships. So that really meant strengthening the collaboration with not just local municipalities, but regional partners to improve economic efficiency and alignment with community priorities. The third strategic priority was really around sustainable infrastructure development with a goal to expand and upgrade critical infrastructure towards that long-term sustainability and cost effectiveness. And then the fourth strategic priority was a little bit more inward facing with outward outcomes around adaptability and agility. So internally modernizing the county's administrative capabilities, but really to kind of improve overall service delivery and achieve better community outcomes. So these 4 strategic priorities then became the basis for building out a performance measurement framework. And that really identifies the how we will measure success for each strategic priority. So if we just move to that section, so the performance measurement framework really provides the county's admin and all of your staff with the structured way to not just track the progress, but assess the plan's effectiveness over time and ensure your accountability across teams over the next several years. The framework really sets you up for success and ensures that the activities that your teams are taking on are aligned with the goals that you set out initially. They're clearly linked to those strategic priorities, that the success is defined up front. So it kind of establishes that measurable target for each priority and what success looks like for each objective. It also ensures decision-making is informed. So it provides all of you with relevant data at your fingertips that will help you adjust the strategies and resources based on what's working and what's not working. So that will help you sort of pivot and not expend too much energy doing one thing if you need to pivot and focus on another area. The framework also ensures transparency and accountability in the forefront. So you're providing a consistent way to report on your achievements and your challenges and your goals. And then finally, it really creates a continuous improvement culture. So continuous improvement really gets operationalized, that muscle really gets built inside the organization. You're able to identify lessons learned and really improve performance over time. So finally, if we move to the implementation plan, this is really where the rubber hits the road, as I mentioned. So the implementation plan was then built with all of the county's teams. And I really want to thank all of the teams for the hard work in sort of making it real, taking that plan, the vision, the priorities, and really looking at their teams to say, what is it that we're currently doing and what can we continue to do? What do we need to focus on over the next few years? So the implementation plan really details each of the key initiatives associated with the 4 strategic priorities, and it becomes your operational roadmap. So it translates your strategic plan, the vision and the goals into those actionable steps. So if you think of the strategic plan being sort of what the county wants to achieve over the next 5 years, the implementation plan really focuses on the how the county's objectives are going to be accomplished. So each initiative was built to have its own status sheet or tear sheet, I call them, and it clearly identifies, key milestones and deliverables, the risks and mitigation plans, your outcome measures, and realistic time frames. So if we just move to the final recommendation, I would recommend that you use this implementation plan in an operational and business as usual manner. The plan is meant to be reviewed regularly. I would suggest quarterly or every 6 months to assess, your progress, identify barriers, and make any adjustments that you need to against each of those strategic priorities. And what this will help you do, what it will allow for, is really for you to be able to pivot in the face of unforeseen challenges, which I'm sure there will be some, and you'll be able to navigate them with confidence and with clarity. So I'll pause there and I'll see if there are any questions and open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Lynn. Questions, comments from council? No, Councillor DeVete?
Thank you, Warden. Thank you for that presentation. This is, I really like the components of the report so that it's very clear to follow through. I wanted to ask about your thoughts on the outcome measures. So I just pulled up the one on the develop and implement the economic development one. The measures of success are to increase the outcome measures that we're looking for, increase the staff complement and business center opened on timeline and budget. Those are really proximate goals. If this is economic development service, I'm thinking, I guess, in a more integrated way. I would have thought that there would be some kinds of goals that are measurable in terms of how we do business, what we'd like to see in terms of X or Y and that kind of thing. Or do I have this all wrong? Is this like a 3-month, like 1 quarter we're doing this, the next quarter we'll get another report says, okay, check, we've got these things done. Here's the next piece. So I was just looking for a little clarity there.
Okay, thank you. Paul, I think you're going to speak to that.
Lynn, if it's okay, I'll jump in on this one and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I think what you're referencing there is the specific initiative or action item under the implementation framework. If you look at the performance framework, which is sort of a level up, which is actually in the strategic plan, how the proposed measurement for strategic priority number 1, economic development, is on a larger scale. So assessment of an increase in new business registrations and expansions within the county, percentage of serviced employment lands for development indicating readiness to attract investment, growth in local employment rates in key sectors, annual increase in assessed commercial and industrial property values, number of entrepreneurship and innovation support programs utilized. So I think I intended to make a higher level comment on this, but the performance framework within the strategic plan measures those priorities more broadly. And then the action items, the 50 or so odd action items at this point in time, they're a point in time component, are specific identifiable action items that are pulled effectively from the budget for all intents and purposes for so far. But as we go forward and council makes different decisions on different projects, those would evolve and or as council makes decisions throughout the next term or years, sorry, additional action items would be continually added. And as we go through the 2026 budget process, those would all be updated and refreshed. And then the completion or not completion of those action items would feed into the performance measure analysis at that higher level.
Okay.
Yeah. So the short answer is B. Okay, thank you. Because I was just looking at that and that's you'll be looking at that every quarter or month as you go through. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Smyber, then Counselor Grantham.
Great, thank you, through the warden. I really like the strategic plan. I think it's great that we have an implementation plan. We've got measurables. I think that's really gonna tee up some success for us as we move through the plan. The only question that I had was, and I wasn't at the entire meeting that we had with the consultant. I know that this strategic plan takes us into 2030. I was just wanting to get some feedback or have a bit of a discussion on, I think it would be beneficial if we took a look at maybe paring that back a little bit. I think it's better to have like a new council coming in, being able to put their lens on the strategic plan or a new strategic plan rather than doing it so late in the council term. So I don't know if there were any discussions that you had during our session with the consultant or not, but anyway, I just leave that as a question for now. And I know that we can change that likely moving forward. Probably a new council might set that expectation, but just want to know if there's any thoughts about what the ideal timing is for a new strat plan with a new council.
Okay, thank you. Paul or Lynn, do you want to speak to that? Comment to that?
I'll just comment from a staff level. I don't recall anything being directed by council on that. And I don't really recall that being in any of the previous reports, but I would say just, I think this plan lives and evolves or becomes non-existent at the direction of council at any time.
I would say to that, I would think when a new council comes in, it's a perfect opportunity to go over the strategic plan, see if it focuses with council. Counselor Grantham.
Thank you, Warden, and through you to Paul. And this may seem like a small thing, but your answer to Councillor David's a good segue into what I want to talk about the imagery. Because when you use the words employment, land, and industry, when you look in the strat plan itself, it talks about industrial growth. And again, maybe a small thing, but when I look at the graphics and imagery, it's all agriculture. I know we're still agriculture, but when I look at that, you know, the message we want to send is that we're growing industrial growth and employment land. So just find some imagery that shows the industrial rate of our county. That was my only takeaway. The whole thing was the pictures.
Okay, thank you. Counselor McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. This is a very minor issue. It's just a spelling error. I just want to point it out in case it all gets adopted here. But on your final attachment, number 4th attachment, Paul, if you went down to page 31 and it talks about the brief description, that long line, and correct me if I'm wrong, but near it's 2 lines. So at the end of the first line, MLPS has been participating in this. Should it be initiative? Okay, I'll just leave that with you. I figured that. Thank you. Thanks.
I have to ask you, Counselor, are you?
2.5 years here and I finally read it.
I think that's where you were going with that, but I have to ask you sure you're a retired police officer, not an English teacher? Because I heard that.
Oh, no, I know he's not a retired English teacher.
Okay, any other questions, comments from council?
Can't you turn it off?
No. No other questions or comments at this time? Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Smyber.
I'd like to move the staff recommendation.
You're moving the staff recommendation. Are we putting that on the screen for people? There it is. Okay, seconded by Councilor Burkhart Jessam. In favor? Carried. Thank you. I don't know if Lynn's still with us, but thank you very much, Lynn and Paul and everyone who worked on that to get that to where it is. Our next is 8C2, and that's establishing a housing advocate role. Cindy.
Sure. Thanks, Warden, to the council. I'm going to start off and just briefly talk about this role. Although Dirk can chime in at any point that he wants because there is a planning element to this as well. So as part of the 2025 budget, Council approved the housing advocate role. The purpose of this role is to present a proposed portfolio for the role as requested by Council. The role of this position is to profile the county as a facilitator across the full housing continuum with the focus on enabling the private sector, nonprofits, and municipalities to integrate attainable and affordable housing into existing and planned development. This role would help to address a gap in the current system. It is a forward-looking, systems-oriented role acting as a facilitator. Key responsibilities are outlined in the report, but include 5 key areas. 1, strategic leadership and advocating, program and policy development, education, capacity building, and community engagement, data metrics and performance, which includes the lead on housing-related data collection and analysis, and 5, relationship management and communications. So that would be including establishing and maintaining strong working relationship with key partners, including the City of London, CMHC, community leaders, developers, and local municipalities as well. In addition, the housing advocate would be well positioned to monitor, evaluate, and support timely applications for relevant funding streams such as CMHC. So we could look at the co-investment fund, Province of Ontario, and I think we all seen the communication yesterday. Hopefully I get this right. Getting homes and infrastructure built faster and smarter, federal government, and of course, community grants and foundations. It is important to point out that this position will not duplicate the legislated role that has been assigned to the City of London as a provincial housing service manager for London Middlesex. And it is not responsible for duties completed by Social Services Department, including HPP, which is Homeless Preventing Programs. So staff are planning to do a focused consultation process that includes talking to the local CAOs prior to finalizing the job description and posting the position. The goal is to align both internal and external expectations. We think that's very important in this new role. We are expecting to have this position in place by mid-year with the intention to extend into 2026. So if you remember, the funding for this position is from the Tax Rate Stabilization Fund. A total of $160,000 will fund the salary, benefit, and limit operating costs for 1 year. Given the time that is required to build those relationships, demonstrate value, and support complex housing initiatives, we are also asking that this position be included in the 2026 budget for consideration. We are asking Council to approve the recommendation as outlined in the report. And as I said, myself or Dirk would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Cindy. Questions, Council? Council Burkhart, Jess.
Thank you, through the warden. I've got a number of questions on this, but can you just clarify just on something you just said, Cindy? You're asking for approval for it to be included in the 2026 budget now?
Yes, so that's what I'm asking for. I'm also recommending that we straddle a little bit. So as we know, there's only 6 months left of this year, and I am asking for a full year to go into 2026. However, the funding has been through tax rate stabilization.
So I have concerns with the position going ahead as it's laid out in this report. I don't see really any KPIs as to what exactly this position is going to accomplish and how we are going to measure those successes or challenges that might be presented. And I almost think that we're putting the cart before the horse in that this was all part of a business case that was presented in the 2025 budget. And I just think this is a make work employment opportunity without the meat behind it. We still are in the process of negotiating our CMSM agreement with the city. We have a number of municipalities that are in the middle of their half rollouts. And I really think that all of that has to happen before we actually put somebody into that position. So I know that I wasn't part of the final budget discussion when it came to council. But I do have serious concerns with it going forward in that $160,000 salary benefits, and I really don't see what they're going to do, and limited operating costs. So how are we going to see those operating costs? Where is it showing up? Because it's coming out of the tax rate stabilization fund. Whose budget does it show up under? And who does this position report to? Because I do believe that this is more likely a planning position that should report to planning. But I also think that given the language in here, that it is best to report to the CAO. And I am a firm believer that we have an acting CAO and we need to keep the business of the county going. But I just wonder if this position is better off until we actually have a CAO and the actual business case implementation behind it.
Thanks through the warden to the councillor. You've asked some very good questions. I will take it back to budget. So you're absolutely correct. The budget committee actually did not recommend the business case to go forward. During the budget process, this was put in and a request was made by the councillor to include just the staff piece, which was the 160,000. Staff were asked to come back and give an overview of what that position could do for the amount of money and the request that we were asked. So that's what staff is coming back to do. I'm going to pass this over now to the interim CAO because, as I mentioned at the beginning, you're absolutely right. It is steering a little bit from the work that I do in social services to more of a planning element to it.
Thank you through the warden. Yeah, it really is a case where we wanted to a bit of a gut check, right? Through the budget process, there was this larger proposal that was pared down to an individual position. So before we before we proceeded to hire and put someone in place, we really wanted to make sure that we were reflecting what council wishes. And then there's that secondary part. We still need to consult with our local CAOs and a couple other partners before anyone would be hired, pending today's decision, of course, just to make sure that we're positioning this position to really help the people that need that work. In terms of the excellent question about where the position fits, and it does straddle social services, planning. I think it's, in my opinion, it should be a direct report to the CAO for this period of time. It's sort of very focused, special project related, and then see where that maybe fits with the right people over time. But I think to start with, to make sure that things sort of happen and are a little bit step back from the individual departments, not too much planning, for instance, if you put them in my team, the CAO is the spot for that.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. I appreciate the background from both of you. I still in this recommendation, I can't support this. I would support a referral actually to 2026. I think that there needs to be more in place. And I'll wait until I hear other comments from my colleagues as to maybe I would consider putting a motion on the floor depending on how the conversation goes with the rest of my colleagues.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGuire had his hand first and then Councillor Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So following up on Councillor Burkhart Justin's comments, and then a comment that the CAO made, which is the special project, the meaning why it needs to in the interim start reporting to the CAO because it's a special project. Kind of what I'm seeing. I'd like to see this developed potentially as a contract position to see how this flushes out. Does it, instead of just hiring a long-term permanent position, which may or may not bear fruit for the council and the county, if we did it as a project, see what comes out of it, and then reevaluate the KPIs and et cetera, and then make a determination in a year or 2 years as to, does it become a permanent role or does it morph into something different? I don't know. That's how I'd like to see this come back to us as an option.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grantham.
Thank you, Warren, as the counselor who brought this forward, and I'll I'll concede the argument about lack of KPIs. There aren't any KPIs, but I'll suggest that the service manager out of London's a little bit of a red herring, because this, as Cindy clearly indicated, that's not part of what this person would look at. So to wait for the completion of the agreement with the city, not part of this, it's to move it up the housing continuum. And I don't know how to say this, but sometimes we get caught in paralysis by analysis, and we could study this to death exactly again with things like KPIs as to what this person would do. I think we need to get started on it. I think it's important the public or the people we represent are asking for this, and it's the piece. And again, I know this intimately now. It's that piece on the continuum that we need to look at. It's the affordable housing piece that people are asking for that's missing, right? So not the RGI that the city looks after or the higher end market. It's that piece, the affordable piece that our constituents are asking us to look at. And I think, when is the good time to get started? When do we start the position? And sometimes the best time to plant the tree is today. We could wait a year and look at it, but we'll lose momentum. By then we're into another council and then it'll get lost. So again, conceding the argument that this isn't fully fleshed out, it's not complete, but I think it does have a role for us to play in housing and to move forward. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about it, is that it's something we need. It's something I hear from people that I represent continually. Again, Strathroy being a larger urban area, and we all have urban areas, I repeatedly get asked, what are you doing about affordable housing? What are you doing about this piece? And to go back to people and say, well, we're going to wait. We're going to wait for another report. Again, those are emotional arguments, counselor, but I think they're waiting for something to happen. And I just say, let us flesh it out. Let's see what happens.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Schmeiber.
Great. I don't disagree. That this is a very important work that I think the county needs to take a look at very seriously. And I'm wondering if we can work out a bit of a solution in terms of, I'm not so sure it needs to be deferred until the end of this year into the next budget year. But I'm wondering if we could, as a first step, reach out to those municipalities that we were going to do anyway, and get some feedback and input in terms of what the municipalities are looking for in terms of this type of position. That would help inform us, and I think also staff, so that we can maybe take a step forward. That will, I guess, buy us a little bit of time until we've got, a new CEO in that chair as well. And then we can take a better look at that once we have more information. So I do think it needs to move ahead. I think conditions have changed since the budget committee met, obviously with the CEO retiring, and then we've got an interim one. But I'm just wondering if we can let's get some more information so that we can be better informed in terms of what the next step should be.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Councillor Grantham.
My last comment is this, Warren, is to me, it's a matter of leadership. I look at the communities around us. I look at Oxford County, and I see what they're doing in affordable housing. On Friday, I was with Mayor Joe Preston from St. Thomas, and he's always, touting his horn as what they're doing in St. Thomas in affordable housing. I think as a county, this is an issue that's present. It's dear and close to the people we represent. And I think the county needs to start showing leadership in this area. And again, the people around us are showing leadership. I think we're falling behind.
Okay, Councillor Mayhew.
Well, just one comment. I think this recommendation of hiring this position bears acceptance of the horseshoe. It's in the terms of money, when you look at it, it's not that much. And when you look at the need out there, as Colin Grantham has indicated, I too get it daily, Mayor Grantham, that there is a need for that. And furthermore, that I know the City of London should orchestrate the services in regard to this. And sometimes I think Middlesex County gets forgotten. And I think we have to have a presence. And I also remind the horseshoe that we're in a position that we can ask for reports on this and to measure the performance, the goals that have been reached, the failures as well. And I think for the cost of it, I think we have to have the optics of taking this subject seriously can be orchestrated by this position.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Burkhart Jessup. Sorry, and then Counselor
Oh,
DeVito.
well, no, you can let Councillor DeVito go
Okay.
first. That's fine. No,
Go ahead, Counselor Burkhart Jessup, go ahead.
you sure? Thank you through the warden. So I do think that this council has actually taken housing and very seriously over the years. And I do think that they've taken the issue of those that live unsheltered or in a more vulnerable situation to heart. And we have worked hard to advocate on behalf of our residents and citizens. And I would say that $160,000 is a lot of money without a framework. And I guess limited operating costs. Well, what are those operating costs and where are they coming from? And how are we going to make sure that if those operating costs are $10,000, they're going to remain at $10,000? If there's nothing in here for this position for us to measure and keep on track. I like Councillor Smibert's idea of maybe hearing a little bit more in depth from our local municipalities to hear what it is that they are requiring in this position. And perhaps that will give us more teeth to develop it, because I honestly don't see it without the business case that Cindy presented at the budget. I just don't see this as being able to do anything. So I would support getting more information.
Okay, thank you. Counselor DeVito.
Thank you, Warden. I'm on the same page. I was going to go down the same path as Councillor Burkhart Jessup relative to the comments that were made by Councillor Smibert. Getting the playground defined. What is the box that we're playing in here? It is different in different parts of the county, getting the information and understanding what is needed in each of those. To your point, Councillor Grantham, there is a greater urgency, if you will, maybe for certain kinds of housing in certain areas. But we all have some kind of urban settlement area. The needs might be a little bit different. Having a better understanding of what is there, what do we have planned, what is concrete and coming already, having all of that information and then working through costs, to your point earlier. It's a concrete piece of, it's a roadmap that we know we need to follow then. We know where the gaps are. And also I think the point that Councillor Smibert raised about the CAO coming on board. We don't know who that will be, what their experience and perspective is, what insights we'll have. Maybe wrapping it up with a bow at that point is more appropriate, and we can budget then in the next budget cycle for specific projects, costs, initiatives, people, like the whole 9 yards. So my vote would lean to that kind of approach as opposed to where we started.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Grantham.
Warden, if you will, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the 4 motions as presented in the report.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for that. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councilor Mayhew. Any other discussion? In favor of that motion? Opposed? That is defeated. Is there another motion on the floor?
Well, I will look to the clerk and my colleague to wordsmith something, because I don't think it, in defeating the motion that was recommended by staff, I don't think any of us say that it's a hard stop. I think there's still a recognition that the county has a responsibility to move forward. So can we at least initiate or compel staff to have that initial communication with local municipalities to gather something, and perhaps at the time when CAO is formally hired, a new CAO comes to place, then we can look at a more fulsome report.
So I would say,
I would look to.
look at that motion, see if that is.
Oh. There just has to be one there.
I have heard no one say they don't want to move forward with something. Everyone's saying, agreeing that we want to move forward. It's just the approach we take to do it. Is that what you're looking for? Go ahead, Councillor Smiber. Yeah, yeah.
The middle.
Could there be something about the housing advocate role, like approved in principle? Or something to that effect? Or pending, like?
You, Mr. Warden, for clarification, what got removed from the second recital is the actual hiring. So you're just approving the role portfolio in principle, but no hiring, and then the consultation is going forward is the exact wording removed.
Okay, are you making that a motion? Moved by Councillor Burkhart Jessen, seconded by Councillor Smiber. Any other discussion on it? No? Okay, in favor of that motion? That is carried. Opposed? No one opposed? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Next, speed limit bylaw, spring 2025. Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden, and I'll be brief. I just wanted to just point out to council that the resolution from Thames Center that was meant to be attached to this report is attached at the end of the crosswalk report. So the two resolutions from Thames Center are there, but they're at the end of the next report. So I apologize for those being placed out of order. But just in broad strokes here, I think I'll address the request from Thames Center in a little bit of detail, but the rest of them I think are pretty self-explanatory. I'd be happy to answer any questions about them. So essentially the concern that was raised by the municipality Thames Center was with regards to the speed limit by the fire hall that's outside of the limits of Thorndale, just to the east of the village. And we reviewed the speed limit in this area not too long ago, a number of years back, and reduced it to 70. The challenge here, as with any location where there is sort of an independent development separate from like a continuous development into a settlement area, is drivers, will just ignore the sign. They're going to drive because it's farmland all around them. There's quite a distance between the fire hall and town. And certainly it's a clear straight road in both directions. Where and again, we're counting on drivers to behave in a manner that is expected of people operating their vehicles in a conscientious way on our road network. But to drop it to 50 that far out of town, I think we would see very little compliance. And the fear from transportation engineering perspective is even vehicles that might drop at 50 at the fire hall would pick speed back up heading into town before they realized that they were heading into the village. So it's just a little too much separation at this time. There is further development happening east of Thorndale, hopefully in the near future. We were happy to revisit at that time, but currently the geography, I'm not recommending a change at this point. There's the next one is there's a small section in around Poplar Hill between the intersection of Kamoka Road, those of you familiar with, and Ilderton Road, which has been signalized. And we're just suggesting that the speed limit be extended, the 70 km/h speed limit, sort of through that settlement area, be slightly extended to encompass that other intersection. That's one change to the bylaw. There's a couple other concerns here about speeds, but mostly around enforcement. Again, we communicate with the OPP on a semi-regular basis and identify areas that we have been told by residents they're seeing challenges with regards to speed limits and people not obeying the speed limits. Right now, the big thing is around school buses, but certainly are helping to the OPP to address enforcement. And I would just remind anyone who's listening that the OPP do listen to public concerns. So if you do see something near where you live or where your kids go to school or your neighbors are having issues, whether it's on a county road or a local road, please just contact the OPP. They're more than happy to receive the information. It really helps them. Same as with the county. We don't know where these problems are unless we're informed about them. OPP are the same. So if you can let them know, they're certainly use that information to better deploy their enforcement activities across the county. The only other one that got missed on the last bylaw, I'm not sure why, but it's there's been a development that's happened north, sort of the town of Glencoe. There's a daycare and other development that's kind of crept north along Dundonald Road, and we're recommending a small adjustment. Again, this is where we are seeing growth in our towns and villages, and just extending those urban speed limits down to a more appropriate level to 50 kilometers per hour. So the recommendation I think will come up there. It's to receive the report for information, and we'll have a bylaw back to you for approval at the next meeting to update the rate of speed for county roads.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Is there questions on this report? No questions? Moved by Councillor DeVete, second by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? Carried. Sure, thank you. And your next one on the crosswalk at Thames Center?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a reminder, council, anytime in your municipalities, if there is a request to establish a crosswalk, we're certainly under the guidelines from the county. We're certainly more than happy to go there and conduct a count on your behalf and make recommendations on the types of crosswalks that might be available at those locations. For this one, this is basically near the west limit of of Dorchester on Catherine Street, sort of as you come out of the urbanized area into a spot where there is two schools along the north side of the road, and it comes very close to the river on the south side of the road. We looked at this, we did a count. There's some graphs on the third page of the report just to kind of identify. There's a blue line on the top graph and a red line on the bottom graph that are curved. These are functions of the Ministry of Transportation's recommendations under the Ontario Traffic Manual, where pedestrian crossover would be recommended of some type. And you can see here they both fall very, very low, far below those recommended warrants. However, there is an opportunity to put a modified school crossing, and we are seeing it's the small bit of residential development that's actually between Catherine Street and the river. They're crossing there to go to school. So there is a possibility to have a modified school crossing installed. And again, as per the Middlesex County crosswalk guidelines, the county is more than happy to install that signage and line painting on the behalf of the municipality, but at their cost. So there's a number of recommendations here, and be happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions on this report? Councillor Smybert?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for undertaking the study at that intersection. Just curious about cost. Do you have like an estimate as to how much that would?
Yeah, through
Municipality?
the warden, the line painting and the signage is usually between $8,000 and $10,000. And then like a full on PXO is between $75,000 and $85,000. So this one would be, around the $8,000 mark. But of course, we would provide a estimate back to the municipality before proceeding with the installation.
Any other questions on this? Seeing none, we'll get the report or the motion recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Grantham, seconded by Councillor Clark. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we have correspondence and information items from 8D1 to 8D8. Is there comments, discussion on any of those? Seeing none, we're looking for a motion to accept those for information. Councillor Burkhart Jessom, Councillor McGuire, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next is new business, and that is, we have to arise from committee of a whole. Need a motion to arise from committee of a whole. Councillor Brennan, Councillor Smybert, all in favor? Our next item, action item is Chief Administrative Officer recruitment.
Just coming in.
And okay, Josh is coming in, I believe, with John from Waterhouse Executive Search. All right, morning and welcome, and we'll just have our CAO do the introductions.
Just as a very brief set the table, if you will, through an RFP process through Josh and others, Waterhouse was selected as the firm, and council passed that motion at a previous meeting. John's in attendance today, can introduce himself and his background, is looking for direction from the municipality on the process. So really, staff has sort of facilitated getting us here today. We provided all the background information to Waterhouse, et cetera. And the goal would be now we're sort of passing you off to John. He's going to work directly with you. We're here if you need anything, especially the clerk's office. There'll be some meeting logistics and whatnot in the future. But other than that, really, this process now is John working directly with council, and we're excited about it. So
Welcome, John. Thanks for coming, and look forward to your presentation.
So it's over to me, I take it? Okay, so I'm just going to start off with the most important thing is a lot of people see my last name and they say, how do you pronounce my last name? So in case you're wondering, it's Stungavicius. I tell people say the E like an A and a C like a CH and say it slowly, and that way it comes together. But I do prefer just being referred to as John or John S for simplicity's sake. So just a question for the committee. How long do we have for my presentation? Like, because I'm always respectful of time.
So I will say, what do you need? Because this is very important to us, and we want to make sure we hear what has to be said.
Okay. So I'll just kick it off then. So aside from my last name, I want to say thank you for picking our firm. I do look forward to working with everyone on this important assignment. So if you flip to your screen where it says agenda, I'll just kind of do a quick recap of what I'm planning on talking about today. And then I guess my plan is to, because I do talk a lot, there's a lot of information to cover. You have questions along the way. So I'm going to suggest I'm going to take a pause after each slide. So whatever questions you have, you can answer the questions. And I like to say to every committee and council that any question is a good question. I'm pretty transparent. I don't take a long time to respond. It's usually answers on the spot. I don't need to get back to you. So just quickly, agenda. So first thing, I'll just have a quick overview about Waterhouse because I'm presuming you haven't seen the proposal. So obviously, in order to have a good search, you need to know the recruiter. And I'm going to say trust the recruiter is important. So hopefully by the end of this meeting, you'll have a level of trust. I'll just speak a little bit quickly about prior experience. I won't spend a long time. It's just a slide to give you an idea of relevant experience. I've got a busy slide which speaks about the process, but it'll give you an idea of the steps to go through, what we do, and then really what I expect if either the recruitment committee or all of council have a good search. And then what I do is we kind of break down then I guess the stages again, just to have a quick recap beyond my busy slide of the stages. I did put in some timelines. I find if you want to have a good search, you do need to have timelines to make sure that we get things promptly. So my approach, generally speaking, is pick milestone dates at the start, not at the end, because everyone's busy. And if it turns out that all of council happens to be my recruitment committee, I'm going to say getting on the same page with timelines is even more important. And then the last thing, I guess that there are a number of questions I got from the CEO, Dirk. He's been kind enough to fill me in on some of the details. There's been debate on certain things, let's say on, what should the recruitment committee look like? I have some ideas for you to help that question become easy. Also, I guess as we go through presentation, I understand this is a council-led process, and it is in every search I do. But the question becomes, who do we engage? And just another thing, I have used the term stakeholders. I know some committees don't like to use the term stakeholders for what I've learned is an obvious reason now. We can change that to interest holders, which I think might be more appropriate in this case. And then obviously I want to do a quick recap of the timelines and dates. And then just to kick things off, we do have a draft career ad as we already shared. When we launch, ads are relatively generic in nature. And the stakeholder survey will really help you identify some of the key priorities. But anyone applying for this role should know what a CAO is, so you don't need a lot of detail in the ad. I think what really matters most is the priorities and the I'm going to say, I'm not going to use the term issues. I'm going to say the opportunities that this council may have for the right candidate. So that's kind of quick summary of what we're going to talk about today. And just a quick pause. Any questions before I carry on?
Questions at this time? Seeing none?
Okay. So just a very quick, if we go to the next slide on Why Waterhouse. So our firm is, I'm going to describe ourselves as a boutique. We do have around 20 resources across Canada. We have offices in Toronto and in Vancouver. We work through a partner in Winnipeg. They're called Legacy Bose. That does give us coast-to-coast coverage. I'll be the one leading the search. My colleague Grant Smith as well. He'll support. He's our Western Canada practice lead. Both Grant and myself are pretty experienced in terms of public sector work. And Grant at one point used to be the municipal sector practice lead for PwC, so he has lots of experience. And I'm going to say rightly or wrongly, myself personally, I've got lots of experience lately. It just seems I get more work in municipal, and this will probably be my 40th CAO search, probably about my 39th in the last 5 years. So I have lots of experience working with councils. And I always say the more colorful the group, the better for me, because recruiting is pretty repetitive. So the insights you share for me makes the role more exciting.
You should be pleased then with the group.
Oh, listen, I just finished the search with one council. I guess that I had two council members didn't believe in reserve funds whatsoever. They said no reserves. So it was an interesting group. So anyway, we do work in broader public sector. So me, if it comes to municipalities, I kind of know all the different sectors, upper, single, lower tier. So I understand upper tier is made up of a number of lower tier. So I get the perspective of everyone. In recruiting too, you work with a number of partners. Usually there's a community hospital, there's police services organizations. I've done recruiting in both those sectors. I've done about 10 to 15 hospital CEOs, and I've also done about a similar amount for policing roles. So I get the sectors that you work with here as a group. And then just a quick piece on my own accessibility. I have a standing joke I say with committees. I only work half days. And when I say half days, I mean there's 24 hours in a day. I wake up in the morning, I say, which 12 am I going to work? So that's my level of accessibility. And I truly am available 7 days a week. So if you have a question, just reach out at any time and call me. But as a group, just for decision making, we only make decisions as a group. So information I could provide, but a decision I can't. And whether if you want me to operate that way too, that'll be up for all of council to decide, but that's my normal mode of operation. So any questions on that?
Any questions?
Okay. So if we go to the next slide here, I'm not going to go through this. This one's just kind of I'm going to say a visual to give you an idea of some of the relevant work we've done. So I'm going to say rest assured that we do have the experience to be able to guide you to the, I'm going to say the right decision. So if we carry on now to the next slide, which is really our executive search process. So when you look at this slide, I'm going to say it's a busy slide. I'm not going to step you through each thing, but if you look at the boxes on the top are really the phases for the project. The line at the bottom is my typical timeline for doing the search. In this particular case, I'm going to recommend that if we can, try get ourselves to a decision before the summer holidays start. Because when summer holidays start, everyone is pretty tough to reach, which is basically councils and candidates. So that's kind of my goal. And I know in some cases people think you need 12 to 16 weeks to complete a search. I don't think you do. Like from our point of view, we've done so many of the CAO searches. Unless you're sending me on a mission to go look for someone outside of broader public sector, like finding a private sector person who can lead, I'm pretty comfortable that the timelines that proposed I can meet. And we just did City of Cornwall, and I think we got them to shortlist. They wanted to get it done quickly. We had our shortlist to present in about, I'd say, 31 days. So, you know, if you know who to call, it's not too complicated. But so anyway, just to recap on, so the boxes at the top are the phases. The right beneath the boxes are what I call the activities that really happen as part of that phase. And then below there, when I say deliverables, deliverables are basically outcomes. These are outcomes or tangible items that you'll actually receive as we're doing the search. So maybe I'll just talk in summary on each phase. When we start off a search, I'm going to change my terminology, interest holder meetings, okay? So I think what we're doing here is that we want to get a perspective from every participant, whether it be all of council or all of council and senior staff, into what they deem to be the top priorities. And when I say priorities, I mean first 90 days, what to expect, 1 to 3 years. What are you looking for in terms of outcomes? And then everyone has an opinion on what kind of candidate you'd like. So I say be fairly free with your opinions. Obviously, you still have the job description, which to me is important. But I'm going to say there's usually emphasis on a job description. So hearing that in the stakeholder comments is important to me, interest holder comments. And then the last piece is I always like taking advice from my councils. So I do have a free format piece or something you want to share with me. Obviously, please share it because your opinions do matter. And if you have a large group, and let's say if you're not one where you always vote the same way, I'd say, you know, trying to hear everyone's voice really helps for building consensus at the end, because we can't get consensus. It turns out to be not a great search. But what I found in the past, if you have a good leader in front of you, I find most committees tend to come to consensus. So that first piece, the criteria development, is really just setting the tone and the framework when we're doing our recruiting work on what we're looking for. You know, so when I say deliverables, when we complete the survey, we consolidate the comments, we share it back with you. You can tell me if I'm on the right page. We've already prepared a career ad that if you're happy with, we can launch this sooner than later. If you want to adjust it, I've kind of given ourselves 2 or 3 days for adjustment. If you need a compensation survey, that's part of it, but I do think the salary range that you propose for the role is pretty fair and reasonable, so I don't see why we need to adjust compensation. So, and then we hopefully will be finalizing the timeline today. So that's kind of the first part of the project. The next piece is where I call candidate identification. It's just really outreach to candidates. You know, our approach for doing outreach, there's 2 components. We advertise everywhere we possibly can in broader public sector, and then we do research. Research is always original research, because I do feel if you're doing good work for a client, we need to actually let everyone know of the opportunity. I'm not too mindful on who I call as part of the search. Because from my point of view, our process actually screens out the candidates that we don't want, and we're always looking basically to see who the leaders are, because I'm going to make the assumption, well, everyone's the same. You want to hire a top leader for the role, so that's pretty important. So the process will actually make sure that we identify the right person. But I think you need to make everyone aware of the role. And then the question comes up, and I guess they often say, well, why do I highlight internal candidates in red? Because I always get the question, how do we treat internal candidates? And the answer is, we're going to have the same fair and equitable process for internal candidates as we do with externals. I may provide slightly more support to an internal candidate than an external, because I'd say one of the most important resources you have are your people. So how you treat everyone, I think, is really important. And I think internal candidates should always be given consideration. But at the end of the day, the committee will make the best decision, hopefully, and hire the best person for the role. So So that's the identification piece. That's usually anywhere from about 3 to 4 weeks, and then you have your shortlist in week 5. The next piece on evaluation, when candidates come in, I do have a research team that helps me. I'm the one leading the search. So I'll be doing the final screening of all the candidates. And generally speaking, we receive resumes, we have phone calls. I'll have a qualified list I look at. I'll do basically video calls with candidates, just because usually they're all over the province and video allows me to be efficient. And then when I present the list to you, I like to simplify things. I call it my ABC list just because it doesn't sound too sophisticated, but to be honest, it's a good process that works for me. A means I recommend the candidate. I always have a distinct reason why I recommend. B means that you should give the candidate some consideration because there's something about them where I think that, warrants discussion. And a C is just what I call, it's an FYI. They applied, but I know there's something about that particular candidate that concerns me, and I share those concerns with you. And then ultimately, I just want to make it clear, you're making the decision. I provide info, you make the decisions. And I guess I do speak up if I do think the decisions being made that's not appropriate, that may cause concern in the future. I will speak up and let you know. I'm not one to be quiet. That's just my style. And then as we kind of go through the process, I guess, or maybe I'll just speak a little bit about that package you get when you get your ABC list. You do have a 2-page brief from each of the candidates in the recommended list, which is an A or B. It's a 2-page summary of what makes them ideal for the role. We'll talk about that a bit more later on. So once we have that list, we review it, then we go to the next stage, which is what I call selection. Selection, generally speaking, consists of 2 stages. It's a round 1 interview where we focus most of our questions based on past experience. The round 2 portion tends to be more fit-based questions. Fit means that we've got your identified list of priorities, and the candidates will share their ideas on how they can help you achieve those priorities as a council. And then also for round 2, we do include psychometrics. We have two tests we normally use. One is what we call high potential trait indicator, and then the other one is emotional IQ. I think they're both important for you, but my view is the psychometrics, they're not the be all and end all. They're simply indicators, give you information. I find the most important indicator for you as a committee are basically references. What have people said about them in the past? What kind of success have they had in the past? That to me is the number 1 indicator that I found matters. And then from there, assuming you have someone you like, then we go to the offer stage and so forth. And we move forward from there. And then once the person's starting, we do make sure the candidates make a good transition. We do offer a 1-year review if you want us to help facilitate that. But if we're doing a 1-year review, it is helpful for the group to have an established set of priorities or objectives for the new person coming. So that's kind of my whole process in about 6 minutes. We are going to talk about those stages again as we kind of go through here, but I will take a pause and see if there are any questions here.
Right. Thanks, John. Questions now? I would make more of a comment. I like that approach. I do like that A, B, and C, even though you said it's simplistic, but seems to work very well. So
It's worked for me in the past,
Yeah.
to be honest, that it just, most committees also, like, I'm not one to present 4 resumes and say you should interview these 4. I'll speak about that a little bit later. You usually get about 20 to 25 resumes from me. So I have ones that I highly recommend and ones that we should look at. And then rather than have you wonder on who else applied and has a recruiter done a good job screening or not, I give you all the information and you can look at as much or as little as you want. So that's my general approach.
Just a quick one. Your reference checks. Do you go outside of the scope of the references that the candidate may give? Will you go out and seek other references from people in the industry or people they've worked with that weren't given as references by the candidate?
That's a good question. So I have a joke about that. When it comes to reference, I always tell candidates, they say, listen, I say, do you have references? They say yes. And then they tell me they're going to send me who they want. I said, that's not how the process works. They said, unfortunately, I'm like a dictator because my philosophy and references is this, okay? If you have 3 jobs and each one's lasted 5 years, I want to be able to speak to supervisors in each of your last 3 roles, whether it be the CAO or the mayor. If you can't provide them, I need to know the reason you can't provide them, and I share that with the committee, because sometimes people get a package and, circumstances, it's not like they just weren't aligned, doesn't mean they're a horrible person. So that's one thing, you get those. And then basically the other thing I look for as well are business stakeholders. So it could be a community partner, could be someone else if they worked in upper tier, maybe someone who worked in lower tier where they've done a fair amount of work. We can kind of collectively even decide as a group who you want for references, but to me, the prior supervisors are basically mandatory. Usually they have 6 references. So the ones that I give the candidate a choice are basically business stakeholders, so if it's a peer or business stakeholder, but I am looking at the quality of what they provide. So if they provide me someone who's a friend, that's just not a reference. So I'm pretty firm on what I need to collect on your behalf. And what I've learned through past experience is whenever you compromise on the references, I've just never had a good outcome. So does that clarify? Okay.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, mine's more a curiosity question is of the 39 CAOs that you've onboarded or hired in the last 5 years, how many of those were non-municipal experienced people that maybe came from the private sector, not public sector employees?
Like as a no municipal experience?
Yes.
None. I have had committees tell me that they're looking for someone with no municipal experience because they want something different. And they've even been recommended, and I obviously shortlist them. I did one a while ago with the lower tier municipality, and the mayor tells me, absolutely not. Do not give me the same municipal candidates that you recycle. Those are a quote to me. So obviously, my council gives me direction. So we provide all these candidates. They had a really hard time understanding the municipal issues and even understanding the difference between an upper and a lower tier or single tier. And one candidate, I think, referred to municipality as a regulatory organization. In my mind, you're a service organization to your community. That's front and center, your priority. So I haven't had great success, but I'm saying I have had success in some cases placing people that are business people that have been in a municipal setting and in the political realm, and they've made the transition to the other side of the fence, But these people are good business people. They understand, call it the role of the council and the role of the CAO, and they can take that direction. So I'll give you some, like I just did a replacement search, not my own replacement. Okay, this was a City of Cornwall hired someone for a CAO. He's a bright and capable guy. He was a municipal councillor. It didn't work out because they didn't understand the role of what the CAO is. And to me, that's the support council. You shouldn't be the one doing the press releases. You should be there providing council information. So that one, as a fellow transition, didn't work out. I can give you other people where they've had success. I don't know if anyone's met Rob Adams. Rob was the CEO for Town of Orangeville. I placed Rob recently in Town of Erin. Rob's had good success. He's had a business background, but he also worked as a mayor and a warden. So there are people that make the transition, but usually they've been, to a degree, pretty knowledgeable about municipalities.
Yeah, I guess sort of a smart aleck response to all of that is, I guess, I have 2 words, Mark Carney, and I guess we'll see how that works out.
Any other questions at this point?
Okay.
Seeing none? Seeing none, carry on, John.
I have had that happen too, to be honest. So yeah, I work with one council. I think one of the councillors participated in developing the hiring criteria and the job description, and then they apply for the role. And then they didn't make it to the short list, so they wonder why. And I said, well, you didn't meet the criteria you've laid out that everyone said is firm and final.
It's sorry, just through the warrant. I did want to make sure because there's been a couple of people's names mentioned that we are live streaming this. So
Yeah.
just before any persons.
I'm not
individuals.
mentioning any names.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. So I guess the other thing, so if we flip to our next slide, which is really, I'm going to call it the interest holder engagement and criteria development. So when I kick off a search, I collect as much information as I can about the municipality. So, from my point of view, it's org information, which are strat plans, financial statements, org charts. Sometimes you can see from your website what some of the key initiatives are. Obviously, the community profile is pretty important. In this case here, it's a multitude of communities. Then collecting, I already have information about compensation and benefits. And then the question comes up now, when we're starting the search, who do we consider the interest holders that should be surveyed? So I have a simple view on this, that I think all of council should always be surveyed, even if the recruitment committee happens to only be 5 people and recruitment committee takes it right through the end. I think all of council still needs to be surveyed because your opinion matters. And then the other thing, which is, I'm going to say technically more work for myself, but I do like to hear the staff perspective as well, because staff often have things to share. And they often share things to me. Sometimes you say great culture, sometimes not so great culture, but you just want to hear what they have to say. And I'm saying, when you're thinking about the role the municipality plays, you're here to serve, and you're not going to serve alone without the team. So I do believe in being inclusive and surveying everyone. So that would be my recommendation. But it'll be up to you to decide. And I know that was the question. So I've kind of moved that one to the end. And that way we can just come to conclusion and give me direction on that. The survey questions I have here are pretty simple questions. It's really, you see them there, first 90 days, what are the things to expect? Some success measures and objectives, emphasis on experience. The comment could be, I'm very satisfied with the job description as is, and those criteria should apply. But if there's something that you want that stands out amongst that experience criteria, let me know. And then, likely, how I said before, what else do we need to know? I'm here to get your input, so provide as much info to me as you can. Because there's usually large groups to survey, I do send out the survey electronically. Some committee members may say, I don't like an electronic survey, don't waste my time. So you always have the option to schedule either a video call or phone call with me if you don't want to do the survey, or you could do the survey and have the call with me anyway. So that'll be your choice on how you want to do it. But and that survey, I would recommend getting out as soon as possible, because I could have that ready for tomorrow. That's if everyone is okay with the questions, So that's sort of that piece on, call it the interest holder engagement. Any questions on that?
Questions? Councillor Burkhart Jessup.
Thank you. Can you just clarify the survey method? So there's the electronic survey followed by a video or phone conversation?
If needed.
Okay, only
And then the other option is
it's
for,
just the video.
yeah. Well, no, the other is just video or phone, because I honestly do have some counselors say to me, I'm not doing a survey.
Okay.
So
Okay, got
I
it.
still want to collect the information, so I'm not going to be difficult.
Okay.
So if you don't want to do the survey, just tell me and we'll have a phone
A
call.
phone
Or
conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions at this point?
Okay.
Seeing none?
Okay. So the next piece is really our sourcing strategy. And like I talked about it, there's really 2 components to it. There's one, what I call the passive applicants, the ones that aren't looking. In this case here, I'm going to say we will make at least 300 plus phone calls and emails. You're going to get pretty comprehensive coverage. We're going to start in Ontario. We are going to look for people that have municipal leadership experience, unless, of course, I'm hearing in the stakeholder surveys that we don't want municipal leadership, and it could be, I hear that you want to blend, you want some choice. So I would respect the choice. And I guess in some cases, I find I've got two streams on what they want. So I normally try to address that by giving you candidates from both, call it streams of what the committee says that they wanted. So then we're not taking sides at any point in the process, but you get a choice. But so there's that passive piece where we do direct outreach. And then the other piece is advertising. I like to advertise as many places as possible. We did include as part of proposal LinkedIn and 4 other municipal sites. The 4 I would pick would be Municipal World, Municipal Information Network, AMCTO, and OMA. And you're wondering why I put AMO at the bottom. AMO is an important organization, so I don't mean to diminish AMO. I just find, like I've picked 4. If you want to include 5, we can. But they just tend to have less traffic on their site as a career portal. Like I look at Municipal World, Municipal Information Network, lots of people look on those sites all the time. So, and then OMA and AMO are particularly dealing with municipal administrators. AMO is in my optional purely for that, reason. But I'm not. That's not a hill I'm going to die on one way or another. So just my thoughts here. And generally speaking, I guess, what I think you're going to get based on history, you'll probably get 50 or 80 people applying through the ads. Whenever I post on LinkedIn, I'm going to get a lot of non-municipal people applying. So that'll probably skew the results. But realistically, the long list, I anticipate the long list here will be probably 15 at least. And before we even started the search, I know some people know that we've been awarded. So I'm already getting calls on the search without even doing much. Well, I haven't really done any work other than this proposal. So any questions on this one before we carry on?
Yeah, questions on this? Nope, go ahead.
Okay, so this is just a quick recap again of what I called my phase 3 and 4. So the phase 3 piece is really what we as recruiters do. So we have the research team, we're out in the marketplace, have our network, we're looking for referrals. I always ask for other good people because one good person knows another. Our research team does a telephone interview, they collect a resume, it comes to me. I do my own screening where I start with telephone, then I do a video, and then I'm always going back to what the requirements were of the role and saying to myself, how well do candidates match those requirements? So that's what I use to actually help formulate who goes in an A, a B, or a C category. When it comes to you, that ABC list I talked about, you'll have basically at our long list meeting, in the package, you're going to get the executive brief that I talked about. That executive brief explains, first paragraph is why are you applying and how does your experience align to the role? Just a paragraph. The next piece is scope of accountability, how big if your budget's been and sort of the your staff accountability. The next questions I ask candidates to basically highlight their top accomplishments relative to the role. And then after that, my next category is education and other relevant designations they may have that would be of interest. I do have another category about their experience working with boards, councils, committees. And the last one, if you're not in the area, how are you going to get here? This is not a role you're going to do virtually without even asking. I think you're expecting a 5-day a week in the office presence. You may give them grace for 1 day at home on occasion, but most municipalities I work with, I'm going to say, the more you go out of the GTA, the more they want the person in the office because you don't need to fight with that 2-hour commute to drive 29 kilometers. I was just downtown the other day, I think just to get out of the city, 39 kilometers to get home took me almost 2 hours. So that's what you're going to have as part of that ABC list. And then when it comes to, I say, assistance with assessment tools and questions, we have a range of questions for you to consider. All questions aligned to competency categories. I always offer recommendations, but you're going to pick what you want. And then a little bit about philosophy on questions when we say round 1 and round 2. Round 1, I focus on experience. I know I was working with one council and the mayor specifically didn't like my question. She made it very clear during all of council that she didn't like my questions. And I asked her why. And she said, well, I don't care about past experience. I want to know what they're going to do for me. And the reason I like the experience questions is it gives you allows you to level set what abilities the candidates bring to the table. And then I'm going to say, when you get to your round two, ask questions that are thoughtful, focused questions on how they're going to help you. But at least, you know, you've got a slate of experienced candidates going forth that have the past experience to help you. So that's, but if you don't like all the experience questions in round one, I am flexible, and sometime we can have a mix of questions. So it'll be up to you to decide. So, and then I guess also for round two, we do the psychometric questions in round two. We do have the candidates do a short presentation because obviously going to be speaking regular in front of the council. If they can't get their thoughts together quickly in a presentation, likely not going to be a fit for you. And then I think we've already talked about the referencing and diligence. The references are, they don't choose, we choose for them what kind of references we're looking for. We do a criminal record judicial matter check. If they have education on their resume, I always check highest level of education. We do a credit check. This is an important role. So having financial house in order is important. And then we do social media. But what happens when I present my short list anyway, I'm going to say the council tends to do the social media checks because the minute you get the list, everyone's always checking. I am going to suggest one thing for the committee here. When you do get your long list packages, this is from experience. The process is meant to be confidential. So I'm going to say do as much checking as you want through social media. What you really shouldn't do, and I use the term shouldn't because I always give my advice and sometimes it's taken, sometimes not. Don't make phone calls to people saying, what do you think of the candidate? Because then it gets out that they're on the market and you could potentially lose a great candidate if you do that. So as much internet checking as you want. And then if you have concerns, bring them to the recruiter when we have our long list stage and ask me what you need to. And if there's an investigation to do, we'll do that on your behalf. So that's a little bit about that evaluation selection piece. Any questions on that?
Questions on that, Councillor McGuire?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
No,
No, that's all right. No problem.
I apologize. So.
No problem at all. Councillor McGuire, yep.
Thank you. Just on the very end, the referencing and diligence. Education, do you confirm education?
Yes.
Great. And social media, are you just Googling or are you doing metadatabase checks, archival stuff? How deep are you going?
Oh, so we have a different components to it. So first off, if they have social media accounts, okay, like let's say Facebook, Twitter, those kinds of accounts, we do ask for the URLs and we review that, and we are looking for I guess make sure that the content is appropriate, and then we do a Google search as well. So the Google search basically, I guess, is relatively comprehensive. And we are looking for things that could be potentially negative in nature that you want to be aware of as a committee. But if you have advice for me and things that you'd like to see in the process, I have my pen out. So
no, I just want to ask.
No.
I'll just go back like metadata. Do you do a metadatabase search using metadata? One of those searches. And do you go into the archives to see if they've cleaned up their social media or something?
Okay. I used to
what have they taken off of their sites in the last year?
Okay, I'll make sure that's incorporated. I used to work in IT. I used to work in IT. I should be crystal clear on what a metadata search is. Okay. Listen, and for that reason, in question number 4. I'm always open to advice from my counsel. So if you have advice to give the recruiter to make this a good process, please give it and we'll incorporate it. So.
Any other questions at this point? Seeing that, we'll carry
Okay.
it. So
this is just a quick summary of evaluation approach and what I like to see in So first off, I guess if we're having a lot of candidates who want to get through things quickly, you do need to have a process. So I generally recommend that interviews for round 1, you have around 60 minutes per candidate. You'll already have a lot of information before you get to that stage. But we're going to have about 8 questions or so competency-based that are aligned to the different competencies in the role. Usually takes about 40 minutes. As a group, you can decide if you want to have a free format portion. Some councils say absolutely not. Other councils say, I just need to ask questions. So there's no right or wrong. We can decide that piece later on as to how we run the process, but I generally speaking give ourselves about an hour. And then candidates have an opportunity to ask questions as well. I do like to get feedback from committees right after the interview on what they thought. That way kind of know where we sit. And at that point, it's not a debate. It's just a one-way exchange of information, what you thought, like either liked them, you didn't like them. Quick comments, no more than 60 seconds. I collect the notes, but at least I know where we're standing as a group. And if it's for whatever reason I'm getting a lot of negative comments, then I need to be thinking, well, what's my contingency plan here? Because we need to bring it a consensus. And then ultimately, if I hear all the comments too and everyone shares, you kind of know where you sit when you get to that final conclusion on what candidates to forward to next round. Because usually it's obvious, because sometimes if I hear, I don't know, if we got 10 people on the committee and there's 8 saying I dislike the candidate, it's pretty clear we don't need to discuss that candidate at the end. They're pretty much, we have a smaller group. So that's kind of my approach to kind of moving through things quickly. And then the other, I'm going to use this term as a guideline here, but it's a pretty important guideline. If you choose to be on a committee, and let's say if you decide at the end you want all of council on the committee, if you want to be a voting member on that committee, you need to attend all the interviews, because if someone asks me afterwards, well, what was the integrity of the process like? I can't say the process had great integrity if 5 people showed up for one set of interviews, 10 showed up for the rest. So if you decide you're going to participate in all of council, I do encourage you to come to all. Now, here's what could happen. I'm going to give you a hypothetical case now. It could be you all say you want to be involved. And let's say that we split around one interviews over 2 days. All 10 come for, let's say 5 show up for the first day, and then 10 show up for day 2. The 10 can still be there as observers, but technically you should not vote. Only the ones that show up for every meeting has a vote. That's my recommendation, but it's up to the council here to decide how you wish to run this process. So, but you should have a process. Okay. So
Any questions or comments right now? Seeing nothing.
I'm either doing well or not, because there's not too many questions.
There really isn't, is there? I guess that's a good thing, John.
Yeah, and just so you know, I'm really not as rigid as I sound, but I just find that if you want to get through things, you do have to have a bit of a process to get through stuff. But I am pretty flexible, so that's why as we're going through and you work with me, incorporating your even with the metadata suggestion, I appreciate that. So comments I hear that make sense. It only helps us improve. So, I've taken a crack at getting a schedule done here. I've kind of proposed some dates. And the reason I propose dates, if you want to get through things quickly, having the dates up here are important. And I'm going to say that both the CAO and the clerk and also Joshua, everyone's been great at sort of providing support to me. So I kind of recommend, if everyone's interested in moving this along, I can certainly move this along according to the dates I have here. And I've picked some proposed dates. I've underlined sections where basically there's participation required from the recruitment committee, whether the recruitment committee be all of council or a select group. So really, we're having a kickoff meeting today. I see getting the stakeholder survey out as soon as tomorrow, assuming everyone's okay with the questions. You'll have to tell me on the next slide, it's a decision point who you want surveyed. I have a career ad already. I think we've circulated and draft. If there's comments you want to make, I'm going to suggest if there's comments you can make today, I can incorporate them. If you want to take a couple days to reflect on it, send it to me by Thursday. That's assuming you're okay with the ad. And if you're not, then we can always, back up the process. This is only a proposed schedule, but I'm hopeful that if things go well, we can get the ad launched pretty quickly, hopefully by the end of the week. I've proposed 24 days active in the marketplace for the ad. most of the postings have 30 days, but I have so much data collected already as to who's who. Our research list is ready to go. I don't need to think about who I'm going to call. I might refine it as we're doing the stakeholder survey. And then in my mind, I'm thinking I'll have the long list package to you on June 11th. I think that's a Friday. We'd have our long list review meeting on the 12th to the 13th. So you'd have the whole weekend to look at the packages, and then do shortlist interviews the week of June 19th or 20th. Most committees like to do them in person. I think this group here, you probably want to do them in person. If we're doing them all in person, it kind of comes down to sometimes there's a cost involved if you have a candidate coming, let's say from another jurisdiction or called a non-drivable distance. So usually the client basically reimburses candidates for travel, but that's something to think about, so you want in person or virtual, but given that I'm here in person and I know the committee probably meets virtual less, I'm going to say in person. And then we have the round 2 shortlist interviews. I'm hopeful that we can have this wrapped up before the holidays start. Because once July starts, I'm thinking the first week in July, we've got the first on a Tuesday, and then so it just becomes more challenging for everyone. And I know this is a hugely important role for all of council, so I'm just thinking I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that I think all of council will want to be involved in that final selection. So these are dates to consider, and if you're okay with the dates proposed, then I suggest that you provide, I'm going to say delegate authority for someone. I'm going to say the clerk in this particular case to work with you to firm up dates in the calendars. And I also communicate the schedule to candidates at the start. So I'm not having candidates tell me then, oh, interview date's coming up, I can't make it. I tell them, if you want to be candidate, block that in your calendar now. Because when I go to book, I don't want to hear that you can't make the meeting. So that's a little bit on my approach. But if you think this is too aggressive, we can back this up. But I'm very confident I can deliver in this timeline.
So what's your thoughts? Personally, I like this timeline, but yes, looks like, yeah, Councilor McGuire.
Hey, and I like the timeline, but I'll just put it out there now, the week 7, the 19th and 20th. I'm sorry, but I'd love to be involved in it, but I can't do the 19th. I'm traveling that day. I can't even virtual in. So that for me is I looked at everything. It's like I will facilitate everything else. It's just the week of the 16th. I think we have your golf tournament, and we have the teeny tiny summit, and then I have to travel for a day because I've got to go back up to Sudbury for a family function, an internment. It takes me out. The 19th would take me out of play.
It doesn't need to be those 2 dates. Like I'm suggesting.
But the time frame, I guess.
Yeah, I like the time frame.
I'm not looking at the exact
wanna
date,
put that
more
in
so
there
the
right now.
time frame.
Yeah.
That's how I'm
We
seeing.
have county council.
So like this, we're looking at the end of June. I mean,
That's quick. Yeah, it's good.
that's quick. Everybody's good with that? All right, and then like you say, we'll figure out dates and times and all that stuff, but I like the time frame. It sounds like that's consensus, correct?
You're
Okay.
gonna have to do some workarounds on some of the days, where we have county council.
No, that sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So
I do have a question for you. We talked about if all of council does that, it is a big commitment from everyone. And my question to you is more, what would be your recommendation? Would it be starting with the committee? And then at the point of the second interview process, have all of council? Or I'm asking for yours, but I would
Sure.
also like to know from council as well.
I always say I provide opinions on the spot, so I need to be true to my word. So let me ask a question. Okay, so when council's making their decisions, how do you vote most of the time? Are you normally like 80% in agreement, or are you 50-50? What's on most of your decisions? Is there good debate before you come to decision? And
I would think there would be a good debate. I would think there'll be a good debate when this is happening. But
Well, one more question.
Yeah.
Do you all think the same or do you all have varied views?
I think there's varying views here at council. I think that's fair to say.
And is there full trust amongst every one of the council members that you're going to do a great job if given a task?
I can only speak for myself, but I believe that, but I guess I would ask.
And then my other question, this is for you to think about, okay? How involved does everyone want to be in the process? Because from my point of view, I joke about this, but I've had committees of 15 people, like Essex County, it's public. I don't mind that they had 15 people that always didn't agree, but all 15 came to consensus on one candidate, and they all really appreciated being part of the process, because I think being part of it, that they saw all the different components of what happened. So if I'm offering a recommendation, I would just say whoever wants to be involved in round one, be involved in round one. That's your recruitment committee, unless you want to do it otherwise. And then for round two, I think it's important that all of council is involved in round two. But if for some reason you can't make it, you trust your colleagues, then I think that's okay too. But I personally like larger groups. I don't like committees of council because then everyone's think they're questioning decisions.
So you are answering my question, the fact that the committee doesn't have to be, it does not be less than a quorum.
No,
Okay, that's what I'm hearing from you.
It-
Because a lot of times we do a committee, it has to be less than a quorum. But in this situation, that's not your recommendation.
you could have as many as you want.
Okay.
I like the larger groups. I just think this is such an important process and people are interested. I know City of Cornwall, they were all pretty interested in their next CAO. They all sat there. Essex, they were all interested, and those were good processes where I think that they came to consensus well. So
Okay, Counselor.
Thank you, through you, to I guess everyone. My view is that we all come from different backgrounds. We're all different ages. We have different size municipalities and different pressures. And every time someone says something around the horseshoe here, I think it's like a rainbow. There's a different color. It all may be black and white in the end on the report, but there are shades and variations between answers, and it's useful.
So basically, it's going to be whoever would like to be on the committee would put their names forward, I think, for round one. And then I do agree that in a second round, it should be all of council, possible, if possible. Councilor Cortez.
Do we not have a selection process for? And I'll just use the word committee just for the sake of it. But is there not a specific process that we have for the selection of a committee?
Yes, our procedural bylaw sets out a process to appoint committees. But to your point, if we do have greater than a quorum of council on this committee, it is still a council meeting. So whether or not everyone chooses to come, it would be a meeting of council.
Special meeting.
Yeah, either way we do it, it's going to be, if you do it at a committee, it's just those committee members need to come and the quorum is committee. And then at the end of the process, the committee would make a recommendation to council and council would need to affirm that.
Okay. Councilor Clark.
Otherwise, then it's a closed council meeting every time we meet.
It's either a closed council meeting or a closed committee meeting because both are subject to open requirements. But anytime there would be an interview, that would be in closed.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, because I have had enough feedback from council that we would have more than a quorum, to this committee. So I'm all right with that point that if whoever wants to be on it would and I will say at this point, we'll let Marcy know or myself know that who wants to be. Or Dirk.
I think if that's the approach, then it would just be all of council is the hiring committee.
But to your point, anybody who can't make it. Okay,
Well,
go
then,
ahead.
then you should set the dates out then appropriately.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
And I would still require quorum to meet. So if it's all of council, we need at least 6 members present to move forward at a meeting.
So then you may end up getting a survey monkey to go on here because everybody's busy, right? So you'd have to be able to land on dates to meet the deadline. Keep bearing in mind, we have council meeting in there, a warden's event, a teeny tiny summit, like we have other things going on.
Well,
Yes, I will do my utmost to get dates that work for everyone. And I think we may have to push it slightly if it's really an issue, but I think there's a way to work around the timeline that's been presented.
but that's what we're saying. This is a commitment from us to do this process that's will become a large commitment for some. It's the way it is. Okay.
Yeah, and in terms of time commitments, just so if you're thinking about how much time you're going to be investing in round 1 and round 2. So round 1, if we go with my recommendation of no more than 60 minutes for the interview and a 10-minute debrief, generally speaking, you're looking for 2 blocks of 4 hours and 40 minutes. You split it out over 2 days. And it is possible that some of the interviews you may choose to do virtually, because I find virtual interviews are much more efficient. You get things done a lot quicker. But if we're doing virtual, then I would not do virtual where everyone's sitting in a council chamber because there's no interaction with candidates. It'd have to be from a private office, either in your home or here in County Hall. So, and we can kind of decide that. But really, you're thinking 2 blocks of 4 hours and 40 minutes of time. And that would give you enough time to interview 8 candidates. If you choose to interview only 6 or 7, you're kind of backing it down to about 3 hours and 30 minutes. And that's, for me, been enough to get through the process.
But it's basically a 2-day block of time that we're going.
About that. Well, unless you want to do it all in one day, you can do it all in one day too.
No.
I'm fine with, I'm so used to
I know,
interviews.
I think it's too much. We've tried that. At least I have in a lower tier, and it was too much. You kind of, you don't stay sharp on it, I think.
Yeah.
That's my own thoughts.
I've done enough of these. I'm pretty good at herding candidates through the process and keeping them on track. And then I have, like, you can tell I'm a schedule person. So I do have schedules for everything, including the for candidates. I lay out the framework for them so it's easy to follow. And, I don't have issues in general.
All right. So my thoughts are that we'll go with the entire council doing the process. And if someone can't do it or don't want to do it, that's fine. Yeah, but
Okay.
Yeah.
And then who is going to be my point of contact? Because sometimes I have just minor questions on logistics and things like that. So who will be my point of contact?
who is normally?
Usually the interim CAO or the warden, and depends how available the warden is. I did a search a while ago where the mayor was the contact, and he's honestly a very busy person, rightly so. So I kind of wished it would have been someone else. But it's kind of up to you. If you have time, and I'd say it'd either be you or the interim CAO.
Dirk, do you want to be the point of contact or do you want me to?
Your choice. That would be helpful.
Then I would think Dirk.
Okay.
We'll ask Dirk to be the point of contact. When
Okay.
everyone's all right with that?
Okay.
I was thinking that as well, but if you're going to be working with Marcia on either way. So, right?
I'm
We're
going
gonna be working
to say,
together.
I'm going to say you're actually a very easy group to work with so far.
Yeah, well, we like to give a good first impression.
Okay. Okay, so Dirk's my point of contact. The recruitment committee composition then is all of council if they're able to participate, and that's for both round 1 and round 2.
Yes.
And then if there's a council member, just so you know that what we're agreeing on, if someone says they can only attend part of the days, but they want to sit in and listen in on the next day, they can listen, but they're not participants.
That seems reasonable. That seems fair. I think that's the best way.
Okay. Yeah, I find a fair selection process is very important in public sector environments. Okay, and then the other piece on who we should survey, my view is that my recommendation here is we should survey all of the we should survey all of council, and then we should survey the direct reports of the CAO, with the full understanding this is a council-driven decision, not a staff decision, but I'm saying sometime hearing this, what the staff have to say is important. The comments, just so you know, are not shared in open session. They're shared in closed session because sometimes there are identifiable individuals mentioned. So these are confidential, but they do help inform me on what the priorities are.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I like that approach as council. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then that survey, I'm going to send it, easiest for me to send the surveys. If I send a link to Dirk, he's going to review the link and sort of my messaging. And then if Dirk can delegate then to someone else to actually send out the survey with a copy to me, so it goes out to everyone. What I find whenever I do surveys, I always have deadlines. Nobody tends to respond very promptly. So I'm going to say on Monday or Tuesday, you're likely going to get a reminder again, because I do want to get those the survey complete. So everyone says it's important, but nobody responds. So okay. And then my next question was, are we satisfied overall with the schedule? It sounds like ultimately we are, and between the CAO and Marcy, they're going to work on sort of dates that work for everyone. I can be flexible, like I say, by my half-day working day. So whatever you want to schedule them, I'm good.
Perfect. It will be a team approach from this end as well to get.
Okay. And then the last thing here is the career ad. Are we satisfied with the career ad? It's I did discuss it with Dirk, and he did mention that obviously all of council would want to weigh in on it, but just what I've tried doing with the career ad is if you notice the first couple paragraphs give kind of a flavor for the organization and sort of who you are. I speak a little bit about the size and scope of the organization, and then I have the general attributes on what you're looking for. There's nothing really specific in there, but I'm saying if someone's really a viable candidate, you don't need to spell out everything for them, because people will be going to your website. They're going to be looking to see what's in the media, what's happening here. So candidates tend to inform themselves as they go along. I think what's important is get the message out there that you are looking for a CAO. And honestly, like, this is a great leadership role. It's in a great community or group of communities, so, and I think the compensation is fair and reasonable. So I'm pretty confident you're going to have a good range of people expressing interest in the role.
Excellent. So comments on the ad that's going out. Are we good with that? Councillor Mayhew. Mike.
Okay. Yeah, I think the appreciation of both urban and rural has to be in that. We're a mix of both those entities, and their agriculture is a fundamental industry in our county, but we're a mosaic of urban areas within it as well. And I think we need a candidate that has an appreciation of both the country and pavement.
Okay. And I tried capturing that in the ad. I think in the second paragraph, I do talk about that, you have both rural and urban opportunities, and I do speak a bit about the demographics. So that's, and I'm going to say hats off to the staff who helped provide some input to make sure I got things correct.
Councillor McMillan.
Through the warden, would it be normal to have the compensation in the ad as well, or no?
It depends, I guess. If you want to, like in this case here, I'm going to say your compensation range is pretty fair and reasonable. I often leave it out because sometimes clients don't like having it in there. So it depends, like, what would the group like? Because your compensation, I think I used the term fair and reasonable multiple times. It's not going to be a negative, it's a positive. But the question is, do you want to let everyone know what it is?
Well, I guess the answer to that is sort of whatever the committee wants, but it was merely a question as to whether it was a good idea to put it in or not. Um,
All right, right.
Fine.
Councilor Burker.
Thanks through the warden, and this is just from an English language perspective, you'll clean it up so that stakeholders not in it.
Interest holder. Yes, I point out to people my degree from university is in science, it's not English literature. So, yeah, you know, that's kind of interesting because I do need to change my vocabulary because second time I have a council not liking the term stakeholder, and it was not meant in a inappropriate sense. But I've done some more research on that, and I've like I say, I'm here to learn as well. So I do recognize the importance of the term interest holder.
Okay. Any other comments on it? Go ahead, Councilor May.
Yeah, thank you very much, Warden Rob. Middlesex County is very unusual in that we do administrate the Middlesex London Paramedic Services, MLPS, and that's a huge responsibility on our shoulders. And you know, candidates may not realize that in Middlesex County. But,
Okay.
that is a burdensome responsibility, and certainly you know, we hope our candidates all know that, and we hire accordingly because of
Yeah.
this.
So candidates will be fully informed of that because when we do send out our packages to the candidate as well, so we have the career ad, but just to answer your question, when candidates express interest in the role and ask for an information package, I always have links in there that I think are appropriate for them for the read. So that would be your strategic priorities, your budget, the council profile, org charts. So they will be very clear, you know, and any candidate applying to an upper tier, you know, should have a good handle that the emergency paramedic services are part of it. So.
Thanks, Warden. I just want to clarify that we're the service manager for Middlesex London Paramedic Services, but the actual administration of paramedic services doesn't fall under the CAO role anymore, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Just a comment to the wage portion of it. I don't think it needs to be, personally, I don't think it needs to be in there. They have the opportunity to ask questions at the end of their interview. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's a question for someone.
In terms of wage, I don't normally put wage in a CAO ad.
Yeah.
Usually candidates will call and ask it. And when I do send out the information package for ones that expressed interest, I would put the wage in there. And in that case, I am kind of letting them know what the parameters are. And I guess I just have a question on that wage piece now. When it comes to presenting our long list, is the wage 100% firm, or if someone basically is looking for slightly above, am I going to be hard and fast with the candidates? Like my normal recommendation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if we can answer that right here. We have wage ranges for management
Yeah.
positions and for this position that our council approved at a previous
Okay.
date. So I think we'd have to stay with that.
Okay.
And then if there was anything different, then council would have to make a decision.
So when we present our long list, if someone, for whatever reason, wants to propose something outside of the range, I'd let everyone know because that way you'd know who's inside, who's outside. But once again, I think the wage you have proposed is quite fair and reasonable for the area. So I don't really see a reason to adjust.
No, that sounds good. What else do we need? We can, are you ready for a motion? Is there any other questions or comments? If not, we have a motion that's going up on the screen for it. Councillor Veet, did you have a question? Oh, you're on the motion? Well, I'll let you see the motion first, right? That's captions it. Okay, moved by Councillor DeVete, seconded by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? carried. Thank you, sir.
Just wanna, thank you. Okay, I was gonna say, a very nice meeting, everyone. So.
I would at this time entertain a motion, to take a short break. Okay, at 3:15, moved by Burkhart Jessen, seconded by Counselor Clark. All in favor? Carry. Yeah, let's take a short break.